Hello, my loves. Welcome back to my channel. 2024 has very much been the year of romance for me. I entered my romance era and I am having such a good time. And while I've done a couple of horror book recommendations over the past couple of weeks since we are entering fall, as summer is coming to a close, I want to recommend to you some romances that I love featuring BIPOC main characters that you can read to close out your summer if you're still craving all of those summer romance vibes. I have 10 books to recommend to you, and this is in no particular order. So the first book I want to talk to you about is The Roommate by Brandy Bush. Now, this is a super steamy and spicy romance. So if you're looking for something that leans more in that category, I highly recommend this one. This is a story of a woman who is in college, and her roommate, who she's not super close to, invites her to stay with her family for the holiday break since she doesn't really have anywhere else to go. She goes and realizes that her roommate's parents are super fucking hot, like really hot, and they're giving her the vibes. You know, certain things are happening that makes her wonder, are they inviting her to be her third? This is a lot of sexual tension and them kind of hooking up in the moment. It's taboo because it's friends, parents. And if you're looking for something that is really spicy, this one is it. It is so much fun. And our main female character is Black, and our parents, the two people she's hooking up with, are Asian American. So I hope that you enjoy this one if you decide to pick it up. And if you do pick it up, let me know what you think. Then I have Love Radio, and this is a different vibe entirely because this is a YA story centering Black love about two teenagers in high school. And you are following the story of them going on these dates because one is a radio host and he gives love advice, and he's super into our main female character, but she's very hesitant about love. But he says, hey, let me take you out on a few dates, kind of prove something about like love being worth it, or like being willing to trust people. And they go on the date. It's very sweet. It's super cute. It has all of like the fun. It's actually set in winter, but it has all of like the fun vibes in terms of their relationship and the dates and just how sweet it is. But I will warn you that this book does have heavier topics and deals with prior sexual assault. And our main female character is just dealing with a lot mentally and emotionally. And I wouldn't necessarily say that this has a HEA, which technically doesn't make it a romance, but it isn't a tragic ending either. If you want something that's a little bit more on the heavy side, but you still really want the cute, lighthearted, fluffy dates kind of stuff, this is a great book to pick up. Then I have Being Hospitable, and this is a novella, again, leaning on the very spicy side. The audiobook for this is fantastic. And in this story, we have a young woman who has an internship and she needs a place to stay. And her sibling has like a best friend who she's always kind of had a crush on. And she manages to get a spot in their place just for now until she completes the internship. Let me establish, she is in fact a grown woman at this point. She's in her early 20s. So she is very much still into her new roommate, and she sets about trying to seduce her new roommate. Again, this is centering Black love. This one is specifically sapphic. It is very spicy. The audiobook is super short since it's a novella, but it is a really fantastic audiobook. The things that they get up to is a lot of fun. It's a little bit taboo because it's siblings' best friend. It is age gap, but again, she is fully an adult. But here we are, Zenny. Zenny is such a good story, and it is full of so much complexity, especially around the drama and each of our characters' individual lives. And again, it's on the shorter end, but Zenny is the story of this woman named Zenny, and she was really close to her aunt, and her aunt unfortunately and sadly passes away. It's something that they were expecting, but what Zenny does not expect is that her aunt is actually secretly hella rich. She knew she was wealthy, but she did not realize how wealthy her aunt was, and Zenny is set to inherit quite a bit from her aunt, and she realizes that her aunt actually set a clause in her inheritance inheritance, that in order for her to inherit the money, she has to marry. And not only does she have to marry, she has to marry a very specific man that she picked out because she feels like they would be a great match. Now, Zenny, throughout the majority of this story, is dealing with an immense amount of grief, but she does meet the man that her aunt picked out for her, and they do actually end up getting along really well. They get legally married for the purposes of getting the inheritance because they both need it. The man that she ends up with was also really close to her aunt and was shocked to realize that he was also set to inherit some amount of money. A lot of this is them just moving through their grief together, and it's also extremely steamy. They are having a lot of sexual experiences, but this is not just them having sex. It is also them dealing with grief, them dealing with the secrets that their family were hiding, them trying to settle into what this version of their life looks like now, and them just getting to know each other. I thought the relationship between them was absolutely adorable, and I think Rebecca Weatherspoon did a really great job of balancing the heavy emotional subjects here around grief with the very well developed character and the strong relationship between Zenny and our hero. It's one of my favorites, While We Were Dating by Jasmine Guillory. This is also a romance centering Black love with a Hollywood setting. So in this story, we are following Anna, and Anna is a really famous celebrity who stepped away from the spotlight due to mental health issues. She was really struggling with anxiety and panic attacks and just could not be in the spotlight while she was feeling that way. So she took about a year or two away, and now she is back with a bang because she is ready. She is vying for an Oscar, and she's just trying to get her name back out there. So she's doing lots of projects, and one of the projects that she actually takes on is the marketing and commercials for like this new phone that's being developed. And she ends up meeting with the advertising execs, and one of the people who she chooses to be the lead on this campaign is Ben. Now, Ben and Anna have immediate chemistry, and you as the reader feel that right away. Not only is their banter really great, they also almost immediately have a very deep emotional connection. There are no walls or boundaries up between them. Both of these characters are also fully fleshed out, fully three-dimensional, and have a lot of characteristics. And what this author does well is not only telling us their characteristics, but actually having those characteristics influence how both of these characters interact with each other, with their careers, with their lives, with their family, and with their friends. It truly has an impact on who they are as people. As I mentioned, Ben and Anna have an immediate chemistry, and while they tried to resist it at first, they realized, we're both grown, why not? So they immediately start hooking up as soon as they get over the whole we work together thing. They have a really great relationship in the way that they communicate, and beyond their friends with benefit scenario, they just genuinely respect each other and their careers. Word gets out to Anna's manager that she is perhaps doing this with this person, and he believes that this would help her career. So Ben and Anna agree to go public with their relationship and fake what it really is. To them, it's just friends with benefits. To the public, they are in a relationship. Fake dating leads to real feelings, so they start doing that. They start falling for each other. And something that I really loved about this book, beyond the things that I've already mentioned, is also the communication between Ben and Anna, and the way that they almost never hold things back from each other, and they really have adult communication styles. Not always, because humans are not perfect. We don't always communicate perfectly, especially when our emotions are high, but none of the disputes that they had felt childish or like it was just in the story for the sake of having conflict. It all made sense, and both Ben and Anna are dealing with their own issues in the background, and that is my favorite kind of romance. Real by Kennedy Ryan. Now, this is another Hollywood story centering Black romance. I love a Hollywood story. I just do. So in this story, we are following our main female character, who is a actress and a singer, and she has an amazing voice, and she's just kind of hoping for her big break. One day, she's actually the understudy for a lead actress in a Broadway show, and she ends up getting the spot for the week because the main person who actually does the show is not able to. So she steps in, and while she steps in, she has the luck of having a very famous Hollywood director be in the audience. I think his name is Cannon. Cannon is a Hollywood director that focuses on, I think it's biopics, but that sounds wrong. Anyway, he's creating a film about this Black woman in the 30s or 40s who was actually very, very influential to the music scene and media. And he wants to tell her story. And he was looking for a lead actress, but hadn't found anyone. So he goes to the show, he sees our main female character, and he's like, absolutely yes, this is the person who I want to lead. And this is our main female character's big break. She flies to Hollywood, they're filming the scenes, and a lot of this is like the chemistry and the tension between them, but also the really interesting history of this woman who I think is fictional in this context, but her history and how Anna portrays her in the movie and the things that are going on. You actually get to see the scenes being filmed, the behind the scenes, the kind of Hollywood parties they go to, the houses, like the lavish things, Cannon's backstory, his relationship with his mother, and our main female character actually has lupus, so we're actually also exploring her chronic illness, how that impacts her, and how that progresses throughout the story. This book did in fact make me cry. I absolutely loved it though. And if you are looking for a full review of my thoughts and opinions and not just me telling you to read this book, I did read this in a blind dates with a book video that I did for Valentine's Day this year. Devon and Chris plan a wedding, another romance centering Black love. This one is also sapphic. So Devon and Chris plan a wedding has a very unique premise.
Because, wow, another Hollywood story. Geez, I really have a thing for Hollywood stories.
Anyway, Devon and Chris Plan a Wedding is a story of two women who go on a reality TV show. If you've ever seen wedding shows like Say Yes to the Dress or For Weddings, like shows like that, essentially everyone who's a contestant on this show gets matched with another contestant on the show, and they are charged with convincing their families that they are now engaged to a stranger, are getting married, and getting their families to help them plan the wedding. And whoever is able to convince their families that this is true and they get all the way to the altar, they win the competition and they win a large sum of money. I want to say over 6 figures. So Chris and Devon are on the show for their own reasons. Lots of it to do with exposure, but for Devon, it's also a personal challenge for herself in terms of coming out, because we're also navigating a later in life coming out in this story, and the way that people who perhaps do not fully understand us project their beliefs about who we are. Chris is so suave. Oh my gosh, Chris is so suave. The audiobook for this is great, but I was listening to her speak. I was like, oh my gosh, she's seducing me. She is seducing me in this. But Chris and Devon have really great chemistry. I love the way that Chris really takes care of Devon and how Devon tries to integrate herself into Chris's family. Throughout the entire premise, it was easy to believe why Devon and Chris's families were believing them and believing that they had been engaged to this stranger, because their relationship genuinely just made sense. This is a book that I read that I immediately thought this would make such a good rom-com movie. Chris is a masked lesbian as well, so if you're looking for that representation, I do highly recommend it. This was such a fun time to read. It definitely has some like heavier and sadder moments, but overall I would describe this more as a romantic comedy with some touch of deeper conversations. It was genuinely really, really, really good. I absolutely loved it, and I am recommending it to you. And I'm recommending it pretty broadly because I think most people who like romance would like this book. And finally, we have my most recent read. I also read this in a recent vlog, but I have The Partner Plot by Christina Forrest. She did it. She did it. She got me to believe in a second chance romance with high school sweethearts. A miracle. So The Partner Plot follows the story of Violet and Xavier. And Violet and Xavier were high school sweethearts, like soulmate levels. As teenagers, they were always getting into trouble, but they were very ambitious. They both had big dreams for themselves. They both motivated each other to be their best possible selves, and they would talk about being married and getting married in the future. However, life happens and they break up while they are in college. And now we encounter Xavier and Violet many years later. They are both in their late 20s at this point. Violet is now a stylist, a very well-known stylist who is doing well for herself, and Xavier is in Vegas celebrating his birthday. Violet and Xavier run into each other for the first time in years, and they end up hanging out and they end up getting married in Vegas. Now, they go their separate ways. They're like, whoops, what the hell was that? Let's pretend that never happened. Except that Violet is being interviewed for this position as like Forbes 30 under 30 within like the stylist community, the fashion community. And they ask her about a very public and messy breakup that she had that really painted her in a bad light. And she panics and blurts out, actually, I'm doing really well. I don't hold any grudges. I actually just got married to my high school sweetheart. He's not in the scene. He's actually a teacher. We like it that way. I'm very happy. I've moved on. I wish everyone else the best. She thinks no one's gonna see that because it's like a very niche field. She's like, who in my life is reading stylist columns? Oh, too bad for her. A very nosy teacher in that same small town read that article, and there is only one person who could be her husband because Violet only had one childhood sweetheart who is now an English teacher, and that is Xavier. So this gets out to the entire town. They all think that Violet and Xavier are married, and Violet and Xavier agree to be married for a set amount of time just to kind of advantage their careers, because Xavier wants this job, but he's being denied this position or the opportunity to really go for this position because the person who's hiring thinks that he's flighty because he's single. If you ask me, that sounds like an HR violation, but you know what? They didn't ask me. I'm gonna say it was for the sake of the plot. So Violet and Xavier fake date / are fake married for the sake of their town. And what you're really exploring is them getting to know each other as adults and having so much love for who they were as teenagers and their relationship as teens, but recognizing that they have changed, that their desires have changed, that their lives have gone in different directions, but that they actually still have so much love for each other, and that chemistry between them never went away. As I've mentioned, second chance romance is not my favorite. Convincing me that 10 years later you're still in love with your high school sweetheart, almost impossible. But when I tell you Christina Forrest has done it, this is a little bit slower. It has quite a few time jumps, but if you're someone who really focuses on the strength of characters, the development of characters, and the strength of the relationship, this book definitely has all of that. With that said, besties, that brings us to the end of this video. Those are all 10 of the books that I want to recommend to you today. Please let me know if you end up picking any of these up. I absolutely adore all of the books on this list with my whole heart. These are the books that I've read over the past couple of years, and 2024, as I mentioned, being my romance era, so a couple of these are very recent. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please subscribe if you are not already, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!